I remember this time when I used to travel from Sharjah to Dubai to work every morning, and in the evening I'll drive back from Dubai to Sharjah. And I'm sure for all those who live in the UAE know the difficulty of this particular journey when you're commuting from these two places. Especially during peak hours, sometimes it can take you an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, and sometimes even 2 hours during weekends when you're taking these routes. So for me, for a couple of weeks, this was kind of getting a little bit too much, and I was getting desperate to see what can I do to change this. I was doing some big planning in terms of the big rocks, what are most important things in my life. And one of the things that came up there was 2 hours of studying was critical for me every single day. And that's when I had this huge stock of audiobooks that I had to listen. And suddenly it struck me, I said, so here we have that journey, which is a definite 2 hours every single day. And I'm committing to 2 hours of studying every day. And I've got this brilliant stock of audible books. Wow, it all fit together. And from there onwards, that particular journey, which seemed to be against me, started working in my favor. I started enjoying that journey so much because that was a time that I was value adding to myself, and I would look forward to that journey, whereas earlier it was like the worst journey I could ever think of. So it's simple to see that there are two types of ways in which we can respond to the environment. One is we can just look at the environment and start criticizing, cursing, cribbing, but the other one is trying to see how I can be a little bit more creative so I can turn things around in my favor. And so I've actually put something together that actually shows how we can be so remarkable depending on how we respond to certain situations. So here we have the environment. So environment can be poor, tough, bad, or it could be very favorable, it could be good. A good environment, a poor environment. And we could also have our performance in terms of our actions, in terms of what we're doing, in terms of the results we want from our life. That could be poor, or we can have great performance. Now, we've got tough environments. It could be the condition that we have in the world today. It could be the VUCA world. It could be so uncertain. There could be so many things that's happening out there, very unpredictable and uncertain. And so that's a tough environment, whether it's political, it's financial, it's technological, but it could be a very tough environment, poor environment. And our performance in that environment could be extremely bad. And what are the type of people who are actually having poor performance because the environment is poor? What they try to do is they try to blame the environment. They're giving excuses. It's because of the environment that my performance is so poor. And so here in this category, we've got people who are irresponsible because they're not able to respond properly, but they're just blaming the environment. That's more reactive ways of doing things. On the other side, we've got a great and a favorable environment, but still performance is poor. So they have no excuses. They can't blame the environment because the environment is brilliant. It's very favorable. Business is booming, but still why are you not doing good? So you are certainly incompetent. Incompetent as in I do not understand my skills, my trade as much as, or I haven't honed my skills, I've not developed the right knowledge of the trade that I'm in, nor do I know how to work with people very skillfully. And so I'm actually incompetent. So skills, knowledge, attitude, not so good over here. And so poor performance, although brilliant environments. But over here then we got a favorable environment, but our performance also is brilliant. So, okay, fantastic. You've got great performance, you've got great environment, which means we are, or the people in that particular quadrant are competent. So they got the right skills, they got the right knowledge, they got the right attitude, and they're able to do very well for themselves. They know how to work. They have good let's say, knowledge of the trade, but also they know how to work well with people. There is a magic quadrant over here. I've left that for the last. What is this really? This is a time when the environment is unfavorable. It's bad, it's poor environment. Yet there's amazing high performance. Here people are responsive, unlike them irresponsible, but they are very responsible, but also they are competent. So they've got the competence, the right skills, knowledge, attitude, but also they are very responsible to the environment. And together, these are the people who are very proactive. So they can respond to the situation. They know how to adapt themselves and to flex themselves depending on what is needed from them. And also they've got the right skills, knowledge, and the attitude. That is important mix to make them reach the stage. So it's nice to just look at the way people perform. So from being irresponsible, we moved into being responsible, and we are also trying to become competent, so we're able to do that well. So it's important for us to be here. Why? Because your environment is not always going to be favorable. If it's always going to be favorable, fantastic. So sometimes I can be very competent, but I am competent only if I've got the great environment. The moment the environment goes down, competence suffers. Now, what is the big difference between them and here? The responsiveness. And so today's leaders, and in fact, this is real leadership, because today's leaders have to be both. But first, you've got to learn to claim responsibility for everything that's happening in your life. So one of the ways to look at that is saying, okay, so this is the environment, and earlier, this is how I work business in that environment, but the environment has changed. If the context has changed, everything has to change. Because context is saying something completely different. And if I'm going to stay the same in a different context, I'm going to be alienated. I'm going to be a dinosaur. So I got to quickly move, adapt, be responsive, and then the competence in that particular environment is going to be helpful. Which means I've also got to see how I can shift some of my skills and some of my knowledge in that new environment. And so that's a very important aspect, but that'll start with being responsive. So what am I taking back from here as leaders? It's very important. Not to just be banking on your experience of the past, believing that, you know what, I've been doing so exceptionally well in all these years, and I'm a star. Environment's poor, so I'm not able to do well, but see my history, see my records. No, that's not leadership. Leadership is taking full responsibility for where you are right now and doing something about it now and here.